We're ready to go ahead and get started. Today is Thursday, March 6, 2025. We're here at the Veterans Hall for the March meeting of the Harbor Advisory Board. We'll go ahead and call a quorum and call to order. Start over here. Member Witowski? Present.
Present.
Member Green?
Here.
Member O'Brien? Member Dowdy?
Here.
Member Hanson?
Here.
Member Myers here. We have a quorum. Yay. Next on the agenda is we'll have just a moment of silence. All right, and then our newest member, Witowski, will lead us off in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, Member Witowski. Next on the agenda is we'll do the outreach and the liaison announcements. I'll start with Member Dowdy.
Good evening. Tide's going in, tide's going out, tide's going up, tide's going down. Same sort of thing, always happens. Looks like we got several more storms on the way, starting later on next week and all the way through March. So if you guys have pennant lines, make sure that they're okay on your boats.
Thank you. Member O'Brien.
I'll pass.
All right, no problem. Member Hanson.
Hello. This next Saturday, the Morro Bay baseball team has a crab feed tri-tip fundraiser. There's a few tickets left, possibly one table, maybe, I think. But it's all you can eat crab, and it goes to a really great cause, getting our kids active and playing in other areas so they can drive there, and the funding that they need to accomplish that, as well as gear that the Morro Bay High School needs. So there's a lot of local businesses that have dedicated a lot of time and donated things to do a silent auction, so it should be a really great turnout, some really awesome live auction items as well as silent. The chamber, if you go to morrochamber.org, there's quite a few things in March. There's the chamber mixer on March 12th, and that is at 807 Main Street. Those are all the downtown area shops right by Legends, Gaia's Garden, Savory Smoke, and the Ugly Mug. So that is free. So come on down and support those local businesses. Check them out. The chamber also has breakfast on the bay on March 19th, starting at 7:30 a.m. Breakfast will be served. And this is about building a business that reflects your passion, how to build or transition a business into something that you are passionate about. So you can get tickets on morrochamber.org. And then we have our annual summit for the Chamber of Commerce of Morro Bay. We have Bruce Gibson coming, Carla Wixom, Michael Wombolt, and now I'm buying tickets on my phone. No. I will buy them later. Anyway, those things are all going on this March, so check them out. Oh, and then per the request of some harbor officers, they wanted me to bring back the drawing contest for the Boat Safety Week in May. So what we do is I go to Del Mar School, and I talk to the 4th and 5th grade teachers, and the students all draw different things regarding boat safety. They get a 20-minute little lesson about how to be safe boating, and then there's prizes that are given out, like a fishing trip, or a rental boat, and then also the Harbor Patrol gives an hour tour for 6 people, I believe. So entering that drawing contest is pretty awesome. The last recipient 2 years ago was so happy when he got to go fishing with his dad. It was awesome. And then their poster of the drawing and will be pasted all around Morro Bay and other areas to get people to come out for Boat Safety Week, put on by the Harbor Patrol. Thanks.
Thank you, Member Hanson. Member Green?
A couple items. On the planning side, there's a couple agenda items on the city council agenda coming up on Tuesday pertaining to planning. One is about the short-term rental ordinance, and planning directors essentially going to be providing council with an update of our recent enforcement proceedings and sort of keeping council up to date as to what changes have been made, including a recent move away from the HDL reporting system and bringing that back in-house to save a few bucks. So that's on the council agenda on Tuesday. Also on the council agenda for Tuesday is the finalizing of the Waterfront Master Plan Committee, Advisory Committee. And one other planning item that is, it takes place over a couple months, but the school district with the Del Mar Elementary property, they've expressed interest in selling it, and there's just an ongoing holding period, if you will, that's open right now for basically just interested parties to engage with the sellers of the property and see what is possible at that space. Just anecdotally regarding Cal Poly liaison for that group as well, I've had several students this year who sail out of the Morro Bay Yacht Club, and they just can't say enough good stuff about the yacht club and our harbor patrol, and the number of Cal Poly students. I think Scout Coffee plays a large role in this as well. The number of Cal Poly students coming to Morro Bay has drastically increased the last year or two compared to years past. That's it.
Yeah, Member Green, just a quick clarification. Did you say Morro Bay Elementary School or Del Mar?
Morro Elementary, yes.
Okay, thanks. All right, Member Witowski, if you have any announcements?
Sure, yeah. Three things that I would like to bring up. Youth activities in the area that are open for signups. Little Guards is open, that's held in the summer. There's also Junior Guards, which opens, I believe, next week. It's March 17th. And then also the Morro Bay Yacht Club Youth Sailing Program is open for signups right now as well.
Oh, thank you. And for myself, I'm going to stick with the Friends of the Morro Bay Harbor Departments. One of the outreaches that I have, the big one that we have coming up is going to be it's in June 28th is the Marine Swap Meet. So a little bit of planning going on that to get it marked out and make sure we have all the approvals. Harbor Department's helping out with that, because they've done it for a number of years, but trying to offload some of the administration for that. But mark out all the spots and get the advertising, social media. So it's pretty exciting. There's some plans to do some other events in the meantime, but we haven't quite got it organized yet. Turns out it's a little more work than I thought, but it should be fun. So watch this space for more announcements. All right. With that, we'll move on to the next part of the agenda. I believe we have no presentations today. We will open it up to public comment. If there's anybody here in the audience who would like to make a comment, please come forward. Thank you, Mr. LaFay.
Thank you, Chair and members here. My name is Bill LaFay. I'm actually speaking tonight as a member of the Morro Bay Otter Club. We are a cold water immersion group that goes into the bay every day. And what we were able to do to try to entice more people to come out and experience the cold water immersion is we brought the California Sauna Club. That is now, we have a portable sauna at Coleman Beach. The Harbor Department was kind enough and gracious enough to allow a lease site to be put there temporary for 1 year on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. If you're interested, you can go and look at it. It's out there today. It will be there all day Saturday, it's the California Sauna Club. And I think this will actually entice people to come into Morro Bay and have another experience of the hotelers and stuff. The couple that's running it, Darren and his wife, are very, very astute in their marketing efforts, and I hope that we can keep that as a permanent portable sauna at Coleman Beach. So hopefully everyone can go over there and talk to them. Gene?
Yeah, do you know what the temperature of the water is right now?
Probably 52.
It's right at 50 yesterday.
Yeah, well, I was out there last Saturday and went into the sauna, and as you go back and forth, you can rent the sauna for 1 hour. I believe it's $30. You have to check on the website, And after the first or second sauna, the water feels like it's 70.
Okey-doke. Thank you, Mr. LaFay. Anybody else in the audience that would like to have public comment? Nope. AGP, is there anybody with their hands raised on the phone?
Hi, Chair Myers. There are no raised hands in the queue.
All right, and with that, we'll go ahead and close public comment. Next on the agenda is the consent calendar, A1. I'd actually like to pull it because I do have a couple questions. So with that, I guess I'll go ahead and start. I have two questions for the Harbor Vitality Director. Just rolls off the tongue. First question is, I saw one of in the staff report that one of the vessels had come off its mooring ball and was floating around. I just have questions about, why, and is it something that we need to be concerned about, not just for that vessel, because nothing happened, but is it systemic, or do you have a root cause out of why it came detached?
Thank you, Chair and board members. Yes, I got a response from Harbor Patrol. The reason was the chafing of the pendant, and so it was the owner's responsibility, but that is definitely a warning sign that we want to alert boaters to out there to make sure that the connection to your boat is secure and is in good condition, because when we get these storms, it will snap at its weakest link. So just to be mindful of that.
Yeah, I'd like to follow up on that. Fire hose works really good as a chafing media, and you could probably get that from the harbor department. And you just slip it over your pennant line right where it goes over the chalk, and it seems to work really, really well.
And just following up on that, I believe we do, just inside the harbor office, we've got a length of fire hose material that people can use. And we'll get some more if we run out.
Okay, thank you. I was just curious if that would be something that would be part of the normal inspections, or is it truly just the boat members' responsibility? Optional. Okay. All right. Just hate to see that happen more commonly if it's something that's easily preventable. All right. Thank you. Oh, the second question. I'm sorry. You got another boat. Yay for you. No, I think it's good to have a third vessel from a safety perspective. If you need two, you want to have three, just because one will always be in repair. But boats aren't free, so is there any estimates of what that cost will be to our budget or your budget?
We're still going through right now, and that's a very good question, as to what we would need to budget for improvements to that boat. The good news is that we did think that the engine would likely need to be replaced. That might still be the case, but for right now, it's running and everything seems to be in pretty good condition. The radar might need updating, but we would take the opportunity of some of the equipment that needs to be switched out on our radans could be switched over to there. And also, the boat is still owned by the Division of Boating and Waterways, so we're looking to secure additional funds to, if we do need to replace the outboard motor, get it through them. And another thing that I know we used to do at Port St. Louis is, with the federal contracts that we're able to leverage and able to buy outboard engines, when we would go and surplus our old engines, we actually got nearly the amount of money that we paid for a brand new engine. So it's not all for nothing. We are able to get significant discounts if we do need to get a new engine. But that is something that we do need to be mindful going forward, is that with these assets, even though they're free, we need to make sure that we're taking into account the ongoing costs of them. And hopefully with the reduced fuel that boat would do compared to the Radin, maybe it will offset, but we definitely need to make sure that we're being defensible in those types of acquisitions.
I guess a little follow-up question, and then I'll open up to others. Would all three boats, assuming they're all working at the same time, would all three be moored there at the same location?
That's the plan for now, and that it will be used. So it does have a shallower draft. So we will be, right now we've got a lot of shoaling, and that will help us to be able to get into some of those tight areas. It has better maneuverability. And so there is definite benefit to that vessel, even if we have all three running at the same time. But the real benefit is when we have one of those vessels down, we're always at full capacity to be able to respond.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have questions about staff report or vote? Okay. With that, we'll go ahead and close out A1. We don't have to vote on or anything, right? We do? With that, I'll put a motion to close item A1 and receive and file. A second? Second by member O'Brien. All in favor? Aye.
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 Right. All opposed? Nope. Okay, cool. All right. Next one up, we get a report from the Harbor Vitality Director about his conference. So with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chair and Advisory Board. So me, Yvonne, and Mayor Wixom, we all went to Washington, D.C. At the beginning of February. This is the annual trip that's sponsored by the Joint Cable Fisheries Liaison Committee. Each year, we're able to get a grant to be able to go to this conference. And the main push of this conference is as part of this group, CMB. And their goal is to secure federal funding for the operations and maintenance dredging that goes throughout California. Basically, we go as a show of force to really make a push to all of the legislators that we can, speak with to make the push to get that continued funding. Right now, we receive over $4 million to dredge our federal channel, and we'd like that to continue. And so it really makes a statement when we all show up together. I think there were about 40 to 50 members that showed up this time, so that was a great showing. And so there was kind of a three-tiered approach with the city this time. There's the first day we mainly focused on the Army Corps of Engineers with the CMB group. Mayor Wixom and the city manager, they went over and spoke to Carball Hall's office and I believe one of our other representatives' offices. And during the Army Corps of Engineers meeting, they're giving us updates as far as what the general feel is in Washington. There was a bit of, under the new circumstances, there was definitely, some concerns as far as ongoing funding, but it seems like as far as the dredging funding, that shouldn't be touched for now. So I think we're good. And with all of the monies for the upcoming dredge projects, that's already been set aside. So we're good for quite some time. And then the second phase of it is we're going to different representatives' offices and really making our pitch to do that money, and then also specific projects. And so we were highlighting things like the T-Pier, which we've been looking for funding out here. And we've also started talking about the revetment as well, which we are going to need funding down the road. And then the third part of it is that the city also has its own federal lobbyists, the TFG group, or the Ferguson group. And that really was helpful to really focus our efforts onto specific representatives. We went to Representative Carball Hall's office, and then Senator Padilla and Senator Schiff's office. And we were able to speak one-on-one with their staff and really make the case for some of those commitments. One of the things that was in preparation for this, which was really neat, was I went down a bit of a rabbit hole to, I'll step back a little bit. Before my time here, they were giving a tour to some of the Army Corps of Engineers representatives, and one of them had mentioned that they thought that the revetment might be part of the original federal project, and if it was part of the federal project, then we might be entitled to federal funding for it. And so when I heard that, I started researching it a bit, and I had found a document that appeared to show that they did, in fact, from 1942, where they showed the area where they had filled, which is now the Embarcadero, with this straight line across. which looked like the revetment, but it didn't point to it and say that that was one of the improvements. And so I was looking for this mystery document where it would definitively show that the revetment was built during the creation of the harbor. About a week before the conference, we did receive one of our consultants, Rincon Associates, Rincon Consultants, they had sent a map that definitively showed that the federal government did, in fact, build the revetment, but they also, and so that then asked the question, well, did they transfer it to the county or the city once they gave ownership of the old amphibious base over here? And within the documents that they provided, there was a document from 1992 which said that the existing federal project included the revetments. And so that's a pretty good smoking gun to show that there is still some federal ownership of the revetments, and so that will increase our chances that we'll be able to get funding for it. And so just segueing onto that, next HAB meeting, we've been offered to have the Public Works Advisory Board attend our meeting beforehand so that the consultant who had done the revetment assessment will come and do a presentation. And so at the end of the meeting, we should be polling our advisory board to see if that works, and we can relay that back to Public Works. So yeah, if any of the advisory board has any specific questions on the CMB conference or any of this, I'd be happy to answer.
Just a couple of questions. On the revetment, are you saying the Army Corps may be responsible for some of the repair work?
That's what it appears to be. It was built in coordination with the U.S. Navy and the Army Corps of Engineers.
My question is that the revetment runs underneath lease site owners. So would the Army Corps be required to repair the revetment under lease sites?
We would hope so, but again, I wouldn't count on anything until they've written the check to us. So it just definitely helps our cause to make a cause for funding. And we just spoke with a representative from Representative Carvajal's office today, and I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but they did on a similar project with a levee in San Luis Obispo County that was originally constructed by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and when they realized that it was in disrepair during the recent storms, it was a $40 million project, and they committed to it. So there is hope to actually get some funding towards that.
Thank you. My other question was there any discussion about the wind farm?
We did, but what we were asking for is we wanted to get continued funding. I forget if we had asked for 400 or 500,000, but we would really like an ongoing annual commitment of funding, just because right now we're not really getting any funding for city staff to be able to pay for city staff or conduct any studies ourselves. Right now we're completely reliant on other people doing studies, whether it be the county or the state. And so we would really like some specific funding for the city, and we have made that request. There hasn't been anything solid that has come of that yet, though.
Other questions? So I have just one, sort of the follow-up about the Army Corps of Engineers. Would this be something that the Ferguson Group would help us pursue, or is this something that we would have to pursue, or city staff would have to pursue themselves?
This is all pretty early on, but this is something that will be an ongoing process. The next thing that I really want to find is the document where the Army Corps had transferred the property to the county and eventually the city, because that should show exactly what improvements they had transferred.
There is some historical documents on the I can't remember this. It's one of the state sites that transferred it to the state, and then transferred it to the county, and then eventually to the city. I'll forward to the URLs I found. That might be a clue, but it's from like the 60s.
Okay, yeah, no, if you have any clues on that,
Yeah,
I'd really
did
like
some
it. 'cause-
research on that a few years back.
And this is all preliminary too, but it might be that within that, the T-piers were also built by the federal
I mean,
government.
there's a map right there
Yeah.
on the back of the room.
Yeah, and so it could be that they might be responsible for those as well.
Yep, okay. Then I'll skip the offshore wind. All right, thank you. Any other questions? Nope, all right. That will go, I guess, public comment, yes, can't forget public. Anybody in the audience have any questions about item B1? Nope. Anybody on the AGP, is there anybody with their hand raised on the phone?
Hi, Chair Byers. There are no raised hands in the queue.
All right, thanks. With that, we'll go ahead and close out item B1. Oh, B2. Okay, this is going to be with the slides, right, Lori? All right, so this one, we get to have the, get through and take the city council goals and then try to roll that out to goals for the HAB for this calendar year. Oh, Yvonne, are you going to be speaking to this?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me tonight. It's always a pleasure to visiting HAB meeting. So tonight, Chris and I are going to give you an update of the current city council goals, and then most importantly, talk to you about the process for the next cycle, and also ask for your input. You are my number 4 advisory committee visit. I have visited CFAC, PWEB, and Planning Commission, and my last one is going to be the Recreation Advisory Committee. Okay, so for tonight, I have this kind of the quick agenda. I want to talk about the process, and then we'll talk about the engagement opportunities, and then go over quickly on the 10-year financial forecast. And then we'll give you a brief update on status of the current goals, objectives, and action items. And lastly, we want to ask for your input. The process is established by the City Council Resolution 83-18. This framework is intended to ensure that annual budgets advance adopted goals. So in order to accomplish this, the process requires substantial public improvement and then consideration of our forecast. So in this box, you can see the outlayer is the framework, which is the most high-level consideration, and then we'll move down to objectives, and then annual budget. And the annual budget, each department will submit their performance goals, and that's where I will make sure that these goals are accomplished within allocated resources. This process requires a substantial public engagement process. We started the process by a survey. The community survey has been closed. So we received 500 plus responses. Compared to last year, this is almost double last year's results. So we did very well this year. And then second part of the public improvement input process was for the advisory body meetings as like today. And then the big one is going to be the community forum, which is going to happen next week. That's the Thursday on March 13th at 5:30 in this room. You all are very much welcome to attend. And this is going to be a very highly engaged, interactive process. And we're going to set up some tables, and department heads will be here. Council members will visit, but it's for the public, to tell us your thoughts, and it's a facilitated process. And then after all that, staff and the facilitator will get the input together, get them summarized, and bring before the city council for city council to have their discussion among themselves on March 25th. It's a special workshop at 3 p.m. Before we can set goals, we really need to look at our finances. And this is a 10-year forecast. This is everything with operation and capital improvement projects in there, and also our reflect our required reserve level. And you can see that this projection does show that we're going to be in deficit in just a couple years if we continue this level of expense and then with this level of revenues. Then this slide is showing a better picture in that if we remove the capital spending, just look at operational alone, we're doing fine. We're looking at, we're making our ends meet. So again, this is just takeaway is that we have a very narrow margin for capital projects. This slide indicate the combined forecast from general fund and major QE and capital improvement needs. Again, it's very narrow. We have a very narrow margin for capital projects. I put some solutions, suggest solutions to make this thing balance a bit better. We really need to prioritize what we wanted to do and keep tracking existing projects, and then focus on revenue generation as well. Now, moving on to a brief update of the current City Council goals. Current City Council goal delineated as the 4 areas of focus: public infrastructure, economic vitality, housing, homelessness responses, and community engagement. A total of 27 short-term actions were outlined by this goal process. There's a pie chart to show the update. As of now, majority of the 27 short-term action goals has been marked as completed, and then some are still in progress. So we can see, we can take a quick look at these 4 areas of focus. Public infrastructure. Under here, there are 7 short-term actions, and I marked the red arrows suggest that those are related to the harbor department. And we have complete capital needs assessment. Under this one, the city had decided to conduct the revetment report, which earlier the director has informed the board that we are going to hear a draft report soon. And then we also prioritize storm recovery efforts. If you recall, this entire goals were established in 2023, right after the storms. And so at that time, City Council made a focus on recovery. And so the FEMA and then the hazard mitigation and anything we can do in order to recover. And we have made a significant progress to improve our storm drain system, and we have made some repairment to the harbor infrastructure. I know more. Of course, we need to do more. And also, harbor department is also involved in this public safety needs assessment. And this one is led by the fire chief. And the results, basically the study is looking at the level of service, the needs, and do an analysis, and then going to come up with some recommendations, like a level of service and how many staff you need, how much equipment you will need, and the infrastructure, and so on and so forth. And that should be the results should be forthcoming. So I'm gonna move on quickly. You already seen the slides. There are other items not quite related to harbor, and we can talk about that later on when you have questions. So moving on to the housing and homelessness response. No activities directly related to harbor in this area. Oh, sorry, housing. Public infrastructure. Economic vitality. economic vitality, there are a few directly related to harbor. Monitor and stay engaged in offshore wind development, which as director reported, we have been doing that. And the city still have the city website. We set up a page to update the public and inform public of what is happening. And also the city council have a offshore wind subcommittee. Mayor Wisdom and Councilmember Lundrum are on the subcommittee, and they are very engaged in this discussion. Earlier there was a question asked about our discussion in DC regarding this matter. To add to what director said report, I would say that the vibe was a bit different this time around. And when we talk with federal employees or federal departments about this matter, basically they're saying that just wait and see is on a hold pattern. We'll see what administration will decide on this matter. I also want to add that your director has been staying in this study that county is managing. It's a regional study called Facility Infrastructure Study. It's funded by a grant that the county manages. And Director Munson has been involved in that study to provide information. Also here under economic vitality, I talk about seeking grants for boat ramp replacement, which we had a grant, but then we decided that the requirement of the grant was very severe. We wouldn't be able to utilize the grant. But Director Munson told me that he's looking into some other sources to further this replacement. And then the Harbor Department is also involved in this presentation to council on the paid parking study and then propose a pilot paid program. And Harbor Department, as you all know, the Harbor Department has already doing some parking enforcement on some of the waterfront area. So we're having continued discussion on this, and we'll see how, by the end of the day, a more comprehensive program, how this is going to play out. The rock paid parking in the rock going to be something new, and then we needed to give some more careful consideration. And we are working with Coastal Commission on that program. So under housing and homeless response, there's really, as I stated earlier, there's no activities are directly related to Harbor Department. But I wanted to say something about this. I'm really pleased to share with the board that the City Council has the leadership to adopt in camping ordinance earlier, I guess a year ago, and with that we have seen some improvement on this matter. Some area has been cleaned up, and city also allocated $20,000 to clean up, and so I hope you see the results of the hard work by City Council and city departments, especially the Police Department and Public Works Department, and the Fire Department for that matter. Okay, moving on to community engagement. In this area, leverage partnership with Chamber, Visit Morro Bay, local service clubs, and community organizations and other events. Harbor certainly involved in these. As you know, we have a lot of events take place in our precious, beautiful harbor. In Harbor Department, Lori being one of the wonderful people that took help support the events, and Becca as well. The entire department really is very critical for the events to be held safely and successfully. And we work with Chamber and Visit Morro Bay to produce these, to support the events. and conduct joint meetings. And this one, I know that last year during my tenure, HAB and then City Council had a joint meeting, and they also have some joint committees with CFAC, do a special study, which is very well done. And so, and these are the, yeah, those are the, we want to show you just some pictures. They're not really harbor related, but those are public works and striping work. I just thought wanted to showcase the work. And this one is taking Frank Riley Park is just here by the water, and then those improvement park improvement project that Public Works conducted in partnership with state agencies and some volunteers. So those are amazing. And then the one on top is the peace pole that Public Works put together and in collaboration with volunteer group Morro Bay in Bloom. And they are at the Centennial Parkway, so they look really, really nice. Okay, now for tonight, to prepare for this upcoming cycle goal setting, we want your input. Wanted 3 things for you to consider. Do you feel the 4 area of focus are on the short-term action goals? And do you feel they're appropriate for moving forward? And if yes, do you want to modify them? If no, you can give us some suggestions. And then I would like you to suggest work plan for you so that I can bring back to City Council for Council to consider to work with HAB for the next couple years. In answering these questions, of course, you want to think about our budget, you want to think about the workload, and then to want to be realistic when you want to come up with your suggestions. To help you get started, Harbor Director helped me put this a list together. There's some repairs, there's inspection program, light pole refurbish program, and some program to address mooring inspection needs, and also the feasibility study for marina dredging. The parking program, earlier we talked about that. We also have the lease management program, and that we purchased early last year. So we want to fully implement that in the next year. And the T-pier maintenance, need a grant for that, and perhaps continue joint meeting. And then of course your participation in waterfront master plan discussion. So these are some suggestions for you to consider get started. My last slides, I just really want to say thank you to this board for your service and for your input. So with that, I will kick it back to the chair.
All right, thank you, City Manager Kimball. It's been a while since we've done this, so bear with me for just a second. My thought right now is to just briefly, either rule out or discuss some of these things. There's a couple things here that's of interest here, a couple things we might be able to combine if it makes sense. I thought that the work plan, if you will be mostly conducted in ad hoc committees, because that's the only time we can really, outside of this meeting, get into the meat and potatoes of this work. So I'm assuming that if we pick 3 or 4 of these, this would eventually could spin off into some sort of ad hoc committee then?
That's a kind of desire of this board.
Okay.
How you would like to do that? You can if you want to form an ad hoc, and that would be something that City Council, again, it's back to City Council. Do they want to direct you to do that? This board, you are the advisory board to the City Council, so you would work under City Council's direction.
Okay, I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here for a second. So But a lot of us have been doing this for quite some time. We participated in ad hocs either in the direction of the director or the city council. Put a lot of effort into it. We're quite proud of the work we've done. But we want to make sure that it lands somewhere. And so that's the biggest concern, that if we want to do the work, we're more than happy to do it. As a matter of fact, we would like to go above and beyond, but we also want to make sure that it just doesn't get, filed and received.
Yes. Last year, I had a pleasure working with some of you on that review of the lease management policy, which I find very helpful and helped me understand the lease management policy in more detail. I'm going to pass on that work to Director Munson. He is working on things on the leases, and we have made some progress. One of the suggestions the subcommittee, rather the ad hoc committee, made was to have, instead of a percentage rent, do a straightforward just rent, not percentage rent. And because the ad hoc committee work with it's to help the director. At the time, the former director and I talked about that, and our thought was that the percentage, we're already in the process of having percentage rent. It's not, the timing is not quite right to forgo the percentage rent, and also our policy says that to change the policy will be another set of process, and we were not quite ready for that. However, your suggestion is well noted, and we had sent that, we had shared your suggestion with council members.
Yeah, I didn't mean to pick a specific topic, but, again, to get the full circle of that is, it's a suggestion. We don't have all the constraints, so it may make sense to not do something, which is totally fine, but to get that closure. And we've experienced that multiple times over the last 3 or 4 years that I've been on the council. So I just want to make sure that, with all the new staff and new changes, that we can make sure that we, get some closure to it. We'll produce a white paper decision, something like that, and that, whether it gets acted on or not, that's fine, but at least like to know that somebody read it and looked at it. So that's my little gripe, so I'll get that out of the way. Yeah, so I'd like to just kind of have a brief discussion to make sure that we understand what each of these bullet points are. It makes sense to join a couple. I was planning on starting, but if anybody wants to make some initial comments or any objections to that approach.
Better to start from scratch or from the harbor status list?
Chair Myers?
Yes, sir.
I can make a suggestion. So on the discussion section of the staff report, and you can use Lori's going to put up the slide as well to help. So on the discussion item at first, we've got the existing, where we fall into the existing goals that are listed 1 through 4. And then on the last page of the staff report, I've taken some of those goals and reworked them along with adding on some other of these action items. And the city manager has done the same on this slide in front of you. And so I think if we discuss those and which kinds of things you as a board are looking to have us recommend to the city council, that's what we're hoping to get from this discussion.
Okay. I just want to address your one question real quick, Member Green. I'm not adverse to, maybe starting from scratch, but there's a risk, from my perspective, there's a risk with that, in that if these are suggestions and they kind of align with the things we want to do, we're more likely to get more cooperation from city staff and not, hit some of the roadblocks that we had before. Although I don't want to maybe come back to those and see if there's things that align with some of these. So I don't want to dismiss it, but I also, yeah, okay. So the boat ramp using grants, because that's really going to be the, where's the money come from? Because that's been the ongoing issue. There was another item on here towards the bottom about seeking grants. I know a few years back, several of us worked on, let's just go see what grants we could find. So it was sort of a, go looking for grants in general. We made a couple stabs at that, and one of the areas that we got in trouble with was actually finding seed money. And a couple harbor directors ago, we actually recommended leaving, I don't know, $500,000 or something like that, just for that type of thing. Because a lot of the, if you're going to want to get $1 million, you have to have at least some money to start with. So I don't know if you want to look at specific projects or just have something with just grants in general.
Is it okay for me to answer that?
What's that?
Is it okay if I answer that?
Yeah, go ahead. I mean,
Okay.
I'm trying to do this as a dialogue because this
Okay.
is kind of a brainstorming session in an awkward format.
Understood.
At least for me.
I'm right there with you. So I've divided it into both the public infrastructure and economic vitality. So the phase one, as I see it, it's going to take us a few years to be able to get the grant funding needed to repair the whole ramp. And so what I'm looking at doing is doing some immediate repairs to the boat ramp to at least get us through the next 3 years. Right now, there's a lot of the rebar exposed at the top, and then there's also the slickness issue with the ramp. All of the grooves on there have been worn down, and then once you start getting moss, you end up with the tires spinning. So we're trying to get over that hump first, and that should be a lower cost option. And so we're trying to get some budgetary quotes right now to see what that would cost. And the bigger, solution with that parking lot is extending the ramp and dealing with some of the other issues on it. And that's going to be a big ticket cost because they're going to need to de-water that area, probably put in cofferdams to be able to extend that ramp or come up with some more advanced engineering to be able to address that. And so what I'm looking at doing is doing a short-term repair to get us through the next 3 years, which I would like to do as soon as possible if there's funding available, and then look at those long-term grants. The problem with that last grant that we had from Division of Boating and Waterways, they fund a lot of great projects, but a lot of times the requirements from them are too onerous. I believe it was for $250,000, and there were a lot of ADA requirements that would have, the improvements to access alone would have put us over that amount. And a lot of times, Division of Boating and Waterways likes to go above and beyond what is required because they like to see public access. Of course, we all would, but it made that project infeasible. And so there's a lot of different granting agencies like the Wildlife Conservation Board, the State Coastal Conservancy, and a lot of that boat funding has now shifted to another department. Unfortunately, we had just missed that window when I came on board. And so we're going to try and get our ducks in the row in this next year to apply for those grants and get the applications ready so that we're ready to go. But again, a lot of that funding, sometimes it's federal pass-throughs. Sometimes it takes years to get them, and we will also likely need to do some permitting with that. So I'm looking at this year, trying to focus on the immediate repairs if it's feasible, and then pursuing some of those grant opportunities.
Yeah. I appreciate what your approach is, but what from the HAB do you, I guess what I'm not getting at is
I guess
what HAB
where
input-
we're asking for you is if you think that that's a good, like, since the amount of goals that what we're presenting to the council, less is more. I mean, we could throw, a million goals at them that we have, but we really want to stick to some really goals that we really want to achieve within the next year or so. And so that's kind of the lens to look at this through is what do we want to focus on as a harbor? What do we want our goals to be presented to the city council?
So if I can make an organizational request, if we take from our agenda, the harbor department staff has provided some modifications and additions, and we just go by one, because do number one, then number two. After we're finished with number one, go to number two, because those are two pretty meaty conversations. And just look at those and say if we want to keep them all, or if we want to only keep some of them. And then of those, do we want to edit them? And is there anything in that category that we think should be added? And then, once we've decided, star those ones that we want to keep, or, no, I don't know what page it is. Oh, right here, so it starts here.
Okay.
Make sure. Why is yours different than mine? Questions for right here.
Okay.
So does it say what page that is?
It printed out on the third page, but I don't know. I broke all mine up to staple it to make it
Okay.
easier for me.
And then if we want to, prioritize those.
Gotcha.
Because.
So that's the work that the director has done, and we should stick to that. Okay, fair enough. All right, so, sorry, just skip. Oh, go ahead. This is right here.
Do we know what page of the agenda this on that we're going off of now? Are we putting it up on the board?
It is on the agenda item B2, and it's the third page of it.
Which page of the document it is?
I don't know which PDF page it's on.
Unfortunately, it doesn't.
32? I think it's page 32 if you printed it out.
And I think Board Member Hanson's idea was good to just go through the list.
Yep.
Okay.
Totally down with that. Thank you. So
Question?
I kind of like, actually, now that I'm reading this again, the thought is to have one, say, ad hoc focus on public infrastructure and then look at a variety of items over time and have it be somewhat open-ended and then have this is what I'm thinking, again. We were doing something like this with Director Enserby. It was sort of open-ended, but again, broad category and just kind of roll through different pieces of the infrastructure, whether it's the bathrooms at Coleman, streetlights, which I don't think is a smart idea, but the boat ramp, and then just generally it would be two people from our board that looked at public infrastructure and then, helped as needed, where we could going forward.
I don't know if we have time to be able to be doing the ad hoc committees, because I think that the council will be discussing our input on these goals at a city council meeting pretty soon.
Cal,
Okay, gotcha.
Cal,
Yes, sir.
so under the shopping list that we just saw, I think we've already hammered the thing out about the moorings. Maybe we can just eliminate that item?
Okay. So our goal here is just whether we want to keep stuff or take it off. All right.
Yeah, I think so.
Boat ramp is totally fine. Any objections to keeping the boat ramp?
And just as just as a reminder, just because we're eliminating things, if we eliminate things on this item, doesn't mean we're not going to do them.
Correct.
We can still
Yeah.
look at them. It's just as the city
It's
council.
your goal, not ours.
Yeah, it's just from the city council's perspective. And a lot of these items, if you do choose them, they will be combined with other items as action items, so.
Okay, so definitely I would suggest that we keep the boat ramp because it is something that is definitely in the scope of things that I'm super interested in it as well. And I assume the rest of us are. Facilities inspections of public areas and lease sites. It's a worthy goal, but I don't know if it's a have thing or unless it somehow gets rolled into the lease plan.
I think it's a good thing to have in there because it creates fairness across the board as long as all tideland sites are
Okay.
monitored in the same respect with the same rules and everything
definitely a
is
gap.
delineated. Yeah. And if it's enforced, it means that we all benefit from it. both enjoying of it as well as understanding what it is.
I
So
think
I'm
it
for
shines
it.
some light on it, so.
Yeah, that includes coastal access, it includes furniture, it includes compliance with the CUP, CDP, which is a very difficult thing to do because of our historical record keeping with structures that have been put into a place that aren't necessarily part of the CUP, CDP. So it's kind of a site audit that will be a lot of work on the front end, but then not a lot of work and maintenance moving forward. And that's actually seems like something that HAB members could participate in and reduce the workload, I think.
All right, so that's a keeper. Light posts on Embarcadero.
So I have a question on this one.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So they're owned by PG&E, correct?
That's my understanding, but that will still involve a city push and possible funding to be able to do that.
So one of the things that I found out, because I'm one of the people who was like, hey, it needs to be brighter, it's too dark, and what I've been told is that, you know, the more calls and emails that PG&E receives as far as not thinking that the light posts are maintained well enough, it triggers a response. It's a similar way that the city deals with public works. So just FYI, if that's something that the HAB can participate in. But is it really something significant that the city council needs to vote on in order to have it be part of a goal?
It doesn't necessarily have to be part of a goal. That is just, I think that's part of a bigger picture that we were looking at things that could be accomplished in 1 to 2 years. And I think that that was, when I started here, that seemed as a bit of low-hanging fruit that we could at least start getting movement on, because a lot of times what PG&E will do is they'll replace, over time they'll replace light posts, but usually it's a very generic design, but they will allow you to pay for the cost differential for more ornamental ones. And so I did get a contact at PG&E, and this is all very early on, but I'm likely going to be moving that direction anyway. So this could be one thing that could be as far as other enhancements along the Embarcadero as well.
And I'll also point out that a couple people contacted PG&E because there was some uneven situation with the sidewalk and with the base of it, and as soon as they got, I believe, 1, maybe 2 emails, they were out there the next day. So if we want community support, go ahead. If you find something out there that's PG&E light post or whatnot, a possible liability, they'll respond quickly. So I think that if you're okay, we can take this off just so there's less things for the council to read.
That would be fine with me.
Yeah, it feels like more of a PWAB thing, but, all right. Member Dowdy, you wanted to strike the mooring inspection. I know this is kind of you're in an awkward spot, but.
Well, I think we beat this horse to a death. I mean, we've figured out, we seem to make it work, and I don't think we've had any big issues in the last, 6 months or so.
I know this, I assume you're talking about the storms, right? Okay, and moving them around. Was that the intent behind this bullet item?
That's not so much, and I know we have addressed that, and we are working on that. Some of the engineering needs, as I see it, is we've never really set out the design of our mooring field, as far as I know. I mean, I think at one point they did, but I don't think we've actually gone back and looked at it. We haven't, at Port San Luis, and I hate still referencing Port San Luis over and over again, but they had different zones set out by different vessels, whether it be power boats or sailboats, because they change differently in the current.
You don't need to say anymore. It was all done organically over time.
Yeah.
Done once and
right.
changed organically over time. Yes.
And also just the scope of how the moorings are built. And I'm not talking about anything that you've done wrong, Gene. I'm just saying, as far as the length of them in general and how that we don't have a standard manual for our harbor on how to build the moorings. And at some point, Gene is likely going to retire. And so in order for us to be able to move forward beyond his retirement, we need to be able to either have some set of standards that we need to pass on to a new contractor, or use employees within the city to be able to have standards that they can follow to build those moorings. And we don't have that right now.
So this is more of a path forward to maintain the harbor moorings for the next 10 years or something.
I'm good with all that.
Yeah, I bet. I think that one should probably stay. We did do, because of the other stuff we did, we have a little bit of, at least a few of us have a little bit of background in it, so. All right. Dredging, state park marina dredging, I don't know if that, I mean, I don't know what the HAB input to that would be. I mean, I'm all for it, but that's more of a lobbying thing, I would think.
Well, so we do have, we are somewhat involved with it in that we are a pass-through for the funding that goes through to that marina, and only the funding that we get from it can only be used towards the dredging and operations of that marina. And we're also on a month-to-month, or is it month-to-month, or is it year-to-year? We're on a month-to-month agreement with them. We used to have a long-term agreement with the marina, and we need to look at reworking that agreement if we're going to continue this going forward. Because right now, the amount of money that we bring into it the amount that we would have to do to maintain it would far exceed what we bring in revenue. And so we would have to be looking at whether it's worth our time and effort to continue that agreement. And right now, we're looking at doing some initial sediment sampling of there to see what the feasibility of the dredging is. And if it is, then we might be able to move forward and look forward other funding opportunities, because it would really be, it'd be nice to have more capacity for vessels within the harbor. But at the same time, if it's going to, cost us $2 million for every $1 million we bring in, it doesn't make sense for us. So we definitely need to make a decision on that, but before we do that, we need more information. And so that's what talking about the feasibility of dredging the state park marina is.
All right, so it's a little bit more than just the dredging, but the ownership and the leases and AP and all that good wonderfulness.
There's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah, okay, that one can stay, unless there's any objections. So I don't mean to be unilateral here, but offshore wind, I don't think there's much there. I mean,
Do we want to add to this?
the mooring inspection?
No, the public infrastructure, if we have other items.
Sure, absolutely, go ahead.
I just have some suggestions that, at least for consideration for additional public infrastructure items that could either supersede or go follow some of these up there. And some of these might already be covered by Public Works or elsewhere. Finishing up whatever we're doing with the dockside drive aisle in terms of pedestrian traffic right there. Coleman Park bathroom remains sort of on our to-do list that I think we got funding for at some point. Addressing the coastal access closures at 1001 Front Street that have been temporarily / increasingly permanent closures while maybe some work gets done, but business remains operating. Erosion control between Coleman Beach and Morro Rock on the bay side, which I know a study just came out about that. I'm not sure what the next steps are from our standpoint. And this is sort of economic vitality, or at least consideration sometime in the next 2-3 years, is exploring the possibility of an RFP in front of Inn at Morro Bay sometime down the road. That's it.
All right, thank you. Yes, sir. He wanted to add, Member Green wanted to add a couple things to the public infrastructure. So with that, unless there's some other comments, okay. Go on to, go ahead.
Maybe we should, so he just added what is?
4
three?
items.
4 items?
Yeah, for consideration.
For consideration, so should we go over that before we go to economic vitality and see
That
which
is a-
one we want?
I know, that's why you're
You got
co-chair.
4 yeses,
Okay. So-
for,
and
to
this'll
keep them
help.
in the 5,
Sure, let me reiterate what we had.
right?
And then make sure that we have notes for that. So Coleman Park bathrooms, that's pretty straightforward. There's been a grant for some time. I think Director Pollock did a presentation a few months back on it, and it's still on hold. The design has grown, but we'd like to see that happen sooner than later. I believe there's also some council movement on that as well. But would like to see that included possibly. I know the Harbor Walk in front of the Dockside Restaurant is something that's been discussed. I think also Director Pollock has mentioned some plans on that, but we haven't, no updates. It's been about 6 months ago probably. Just the closure by the gas dock. It's the Front Street one has been closed. Minimum, that should at least either be part of the public infrastructure or at least to have a report back to the HAB on that one. And then the beach erosion, where was that at again?
Between Coleman and Morro Rock.
Oh, Coleman.
The pedestrian path.
Okay, and the beach erosion there. Any other comments on any of those? Are those things that we'd want to keep as under public infrastructure?
Did we want to consolidate those into, like the amenities?
We
and-
could probably
and-
collapse the
and, shoreline?
Harbor Walk one. I think the beach erosion, the stacks, or the gas dock closure, and the dockside stuff is all Harbor Walk related, so those should be collapsed into collapsed in there. And I think we may want to include other stuff in that as well, because the Harbor Walk's been a passion for the HAB for forever. The Coleman Park, I think, is a standalone item.
Okay, and I think Coleman Park is under the purview of, we can definitely augment Public Works, but that's more of a Public Works item.
Coleman Park is on, it's on a CIP list for Public Works, and
Okay.
I know there's some progress being made, and unfortunately, I don't have the details. I think just most recently, we have made some progress on that. The funding, from funding perspective.
Sure. I remember the fences getting put up in 2017, and anyway, sorry, I don't, that was uncalled for, sorry. Any other questions on any of those?
The gas item, that's a leaseholder, correct? So it's kind of under the purview of master lease. It's under leases. We can't, it's not a city-owned property that the city council can require them to open the business.
Correct. That one is actually one of the lone private property parcels on the Embarcadero.
So it's not in the purview of the council, so,
No.
so, sorry, but it's a good idea. It's important, it's really important for a working waterfront. How about we add the Coleman bathrooms and park and maintenance of the Harbor Walk from Coleman to the Rock as one? But I would like to take what Member Green said and title the next one G, Working Waterfront Harbor Walk Pathway, implement Harbor Advisory Board recommendation. So if everybody,
So you're putting the bathroom of Coleman with the erosion towards the rock, and then, yeah, I think that makes sense.
okay. So should we recap for Lori, unless anybody feels like any of those should be removed or edited or changed? I can read it all out, so.
Well, there's an area down there I was going to ask about. You might know about this, Chris, but down at the storage facility where the harbor and the Coast Guard and the fishermen share, there's some really serious erosion on the creek there, approaching the road that enters, the drive that enters that facility. And it's probably, it might make a winter, but it won't make much more than that.
Thank you, Board Member O'Brien. That's been a hot topic of discussion with Public Works right now.
It's not a goal item, it was just a general question then, or
That was,
it's kind of quasi a little bit of both?
well, it's something that needs to be.
Okay.
Just wanted to make sure it's.
I think Board Member Hanson might be able to consolidate those. You've been pretty good at wordsmithing tonight.
Yeah.
With the restoring or maintaining the harbor walk, boardwalk, and beach erosion, we might be able to consolidate those, or even separate items, as you were saying, with the Coleman Beach Park and erosion.
So I'm going to make a motion that we keep, for purposes, I'm going to call it A. So 1A as stated, 1B as stated, 1D as stated, address mooring inspection, and then E, which is assess feasibility as stated. But then I'm going to go to the first comment from Member Green, and I'm going to consolidate this to say continue efforts to rehabilitate Coleman Park / bathrooms and erosion along Harbor Walk, as well as other areas surrounding Morro Rock access. And then I'll call it G, 1G, working waterfront Harbor Walk pathway, implement Harbor Advisory Board recommendation. And that is our request for public infrastructure goals for the city. That's a lot. Anybody second that?
Oh, yeah. Get through this. Are we cool, Lori? All right. With that, we have a second motion, second vote for that. Ayes, any nays? All right. So we got through half or a fourth of it. Third of it, actually. All right. With that, we'll move on to economic vitality. The first one on there is offshore wind. Member O'Brien, you had a comment on that?
Yeah, so the comment I had to make primarily was based around the rebuilding of the North T Pier and so forth. And I was just curious as to what we can put in to facilities. Say, I think they wanted 440 at the docks. Chris, was that mentioned? 440 volts.
Sorry, 440?
440 volts. Was that what was there a plan to install 440 at the North T Pier?
I'm unsure of that.
Okay, so just these things. My curiosity is, if we are so unsure of their position, are we going to spend city money on facilities for something that we have no idea if they'll ever come to fruition?
So this was already a current action item that was carried over from the last time, and so it was just it kept on the list because it is still an active item. We are still engaging with offshore wind, and it is up to the board's discretion whether they want to suggest keeping that as a priority or to remove it.
Okay, so if I understand you correctly, there was some improvements to the North T Pier that was suggested, this 440 volts or bigger electric draw that was
whatever
only
else
needed.
might be,
Okay.
what might accompany
Okay.
the reasoning behind that.
All right, so that kind of blends two together. Let me parking lot that for a second and go back to Director Munson and say, when you stay engaged with offshore wind from a HAB perspective, can you provide a little more color for that?
So this was a city council goal that was already established, and because it does involve the harbor department, both, I mean, we are going to be directly affected by offshore wind if we do improve our facilities to build capacity for it. And both Becky Kelly and myself were both actively engaged in the meetings. We had included it on this list because the harbor department is involved with it. So we thought it'd be wise to bring it to the harbor advisory board to discuss whether they wanted to keep it on this list or not. I mean, if it's not, that's fine. If you want to keep it on, that's fine as well.
Yeah, so I think it's a good thing to have. What I don't like about this is that it's pretty vague, where it doesn't have like clearly how we're going to be engaged, whether it's understanding what the requirements of potential developers are or what the impacts of executive orders would be on the field at this point. I think some clarity into what we mean when we say staying engaged would put a few of us at ease.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. To go back to your comment, Member O'Brien, is that, if we're spending money because of some anticipated need that may or may not materialize, I'm concerned with that. I don't know if that, I guess what I'm concerned about is at the city council, they report every time on offshore wind. There's a whole subcommittee that does that. I don't know what value the HAB, and I'm open to suggestions, but at first blush, I don't know what the HAB can do as far as a goals that's not already being done somewhere else. I don't want to duplicate effort, especially if it's being done at a different level, because it impacts the whole city. The main impact's obviously felt by the harbor, but it also impacts the whole city, potentially.
Right, well, my concern was the taxpayer would be paying money for something that might never materialize. Everything about it is an if. We've been working with this situation for 10 years, and everything we've been told from 2015 to date has not materialized or changed. Everything. So it just, for us to spend our money, if they were interested in, I'll just use the 440 because we already said it at the dock, then they could pay for the dock.
What if we just say stay engaged by and then X, Y, and Z? If that's a seat at the county level by a department member or a HAB member, just specify who on the council is on the subcommittee, just sort of like some clarity. That's about it. It seems like useful that we stay engaged somehow.
Yeah, I don't mind having it as an agenda item or part of the staff report, but I don't necessarily want it as a goal. I guess that's my problem.
So if the board felt that this is no longer a priority and due to whatever reason, and then you can just say this is not a priority. And from staff perspective, we'll take the direction from city council, of course. However, if the offshore wind is not, it's for example, if we have potential opportunity for that, I would not recommend the city council not engage, because if you just ignore that and you don't know, you need to be at the table for the discussions. So it's what I'm saying is that if it's going to happen, somebody need to be staying at the table for discussion.
Yeah, I'm hoping the city's doing that right now. But I don't know
The city has been doing
what
that.
I can do is the HAB for now. Go ahead, Member O'Brien.
Yeah, Yvonne, this had nothing to do with staying in contact. We still stay in 10 years, and
Right.
can we still keep in
Right.
contact? This was only about spending taxpayer money.
Right, we understand. I thank you.
Pie in the sky, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Member O'Brien. I think what you're trying to say is that in your view, the city should not allocate resources towards engagement with offshore wind. And we heard that loud and clear, and that's, we understand that.
I wouldn't take it off if it came down to a vote. I'd leave it on there. I want
Yeah.
to know something about what's going on.
Yeah.
So if we wrote it, we added to it, I'm an organizational person, what can I say? Stay engaged in OSW, seek payment for staff time and research, but you said resources, which,
Yeah, resources. And
just
stop,
add.
All right, thank you, Member Hanson. Grant up, any other questions on that one? All right, so 2A stays with the slight modification there. The next one is grant opportunities. We kind of already talked about this for the boat ramp. I don't know if it feels redundant to have it under both.
The only reason I separated them out was just because one was, it had more to do with economic vitality, but I think it's fine to just consolidate them into one line item under
Yeah.
public infrastructure. That's
Yeah.
fine.
It balances the bullets better, but.
Exactly. I need more
So, yeah,
vitality.
We'll collapse that one into the public infrastructure that we already talked about. Parking. Ugh. Yeah, we'll leave that in there. I don't see any need to take it out or anything unless there's questions about
I
that.
just have a question because you said pilot parking program at boat launch. There's already paid parking at boat launch. Is this a different?
So right now, there's paid parking for trailers, and so we are in the process. Had already been approved to do paid parking for the automobiles that are in there. So it would just be expanding that, and so that's kind of the low-hanging fruit right now. And we're also looking at one of the mentions in the parking study was to do paid parking over at the Rock. So we're currently assessing that, and hopefully we want to try and get through the permitting process and also public outreach portion of that to start doing that, because that'd be a good revenue source.
Yeah, I would probably reword that then, based on your comments.
Reword it.
Well, it's not pilot, it's expanding the paid parking at the boat ramp.
We can do that.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
simple verbiage, because it's kind of, like I say, it caught your eye.
Paid parking.
All right, any other comments about, I
So,
guess,
Oh, sorry, just about that one, I just know that I'm just gonna, we're not gonna have a topic over it, but I do know that there's a lot of liveaboards there, and Coastal doesn't like to have that kind of thing separated with permits, so it definitely needs to go out. If you do at Tidelands, paid parking, that'll become a concern, and it will be a thing between Coastal and them, so just, hopefully something turns out, but it will be.
Understood.
oh yeah, thank you for that reminder, they'll all be showing up here again. Okay. So pilot, any other questions about parking? All right. Lease management software, you needed some help with that, Lori? Sorry.
I think, I'm not sure if was this already? I think this was just more laying into the economic vitality and being able to, that was something that was achievable within the next 1 to 2 year period, and that was previously defined as a goal, so, but we could take that off. It seems a bit
Yeah,
very specific to our department.
It's
which-
your department, not a HAB
Yeah,
thing.
So-
yeah, we can remove that.
Do you have a
So-
question about that?
Yeah, no, so you guys have started that process, right?
Yes, and I know we had a typo in your email, but there should be invites going out for the different leaseholders to enroll in the program, and it should hopefully streamline the process of receiving billings and paying for them, so.
Right, yeah, because, I mean, I know that we get like a paper thing in the mail, and I mean, it's very rare that I get the, bills anymore in the mail. But I just wanted to draw attention to the way that I used to give a check to the harbor, or I still do. You guys have a little carbon copy thing with like 3 copies on it and take that. So we're in the olden times there. So I would assume that moving forward with that, it's a really good use of funds to become more efficient and be able to like visibly see there. So I'm all for that. But if you don't need it on there because it's already taken care of,
Yeah, I think we can safely take that off. Yeah,
Okay.
and, it is a good thing. We're working our way to the 20th century, so it's all good.
Yeah. I got a bunch of them I never use. Yeah, the 90s call, they want their triplicates back. Sorry. God, this is on Channel 20. Okay, and the last one is the T-Pier and revetments. I think this is, more grant stuff. Because of the uniqueness, I think it's worthwhile to possibly break out separately. So I'm okay with that. Is there any comments on that one? Okay, yeah, I figured you would in a minute. Any comments on that? Okay. I mean, other than the 440 thing, but.
Chris, I don't know, I'm just asking, this is like a legal question. So if you put in for a grant for the North T-Pier, is it possible to include the pier on the beach where the ice machine is and the fish company? So what I'm saying is make it just one big grant process.
It depends on the grant, I guess.
Yeah.
Is the correct answer.
I just thought that might be a simple way to kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
It would definitely make sense to try and consolidate the mobilization, or utilize the mobilization at the same time if we're able to.
They're actually all connected. I mean, technically, there's a little corner that.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be necessarily a bad idea. And again, a lot of things would have to line up, and I'm getting a bit too into the weeds, but if we can purchase materials together, that makes a lot of sense too, because if you go out for bid on the piles, or not even the piles, because those are usually wrapped now these days. But if you go out to bid for the lumber, you can definitely drive down the price significantly if for that scale, if you combine both of those projects. So we can definitely look at that, and I'll look at other opportunities that will allow both of those projects. But for certain funding buckets or grant opportunities, it really only makes sense to go for one or the other, because you're in applying for them, you're listing off the benefits of that improvement or the rehabilitation. And for those different areas, they're really 2 different things. So I like the thought process, though, and we'll definitely look at those opportunities that come up.
Creative writing, I guess, so. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks. Any other questions or comments? Member Hanson, anything? I believe Member Green has some additions that he'd like to go through.
I'll throw out a couple additional ideas in the economic vitality. It seems like we could benefit from having some sort of revenue generation bullet point, whether it's brainstorming or some sort of focused effort, perhaps at Coleman Park, or something related to revenue generation on the waterfront. The second item I have is our waterfronts acted as basically part of a kind of an isolated bubble from the community in many ways, and you can even see that physically in terms of kind of vacant parcels between downtown and the waterfront. It seems like there could be an economic vitality effort between HAB, the Harbor Department, T-Bid, waterfront master leaseholders, chamber, some sort of cohesive effort that would make the most use of a harbor vitality director or business director as sort of a linchpin to that effort. And then the last item that I have is it's somewhat related to community outreach and to some degree transparency and economic vitality. Is a couple years ago, for the first time in maybe ever, the two harbor directors ago presented just an interim report of successful waterfront master leaseholders from like a top 10 revenue generating perspective, and it created some positive buzz and energy so that we could see where our money's coming from. And I know sometimes contractually it's hard because our lack of interim reporting is problematic from a finance and contract standpoint, but we could possibly incentivize waterfront master leaseholders to, in some kind of way, like beef up interim reporting so we can have a little bit more of a celebratory economic vitality effort rather than a sort of quiet, isolated effort. Some of those might be able to be combined, but all of them have to do with sort of money in and excitement publicly.
All right, thank you, Member Green. I do have I think one add-on to the revenue generation. I know last year we started looking at some of the fees. Mostly, it was originally focused on the offshore wind and other commercial uses. Could we charge them more? A couple things that we started to get into then was to expand that to the fees for moorings and for liveaboards, and it kind of got to be too big, and we kind of ran out of directors. Sorry. So we didn't go too far on it. It has some ramifications, because if you start talking about the fees the liveaboards pay or the moorings, where we rank as far as facilities, we're in the bottom quartile of pricing, but, deservingly so given the state of the facilities. I don't know if that's something that you want to revisit or not in the economic vitality beyond some of the other stuff that you mentioned.
If it's exciting.
Yeah, it's kind of a third rail kind of topic sometimes, but I think it's worthwhile to look at. Comment? Nope. Vacant. Then the second question on the vacant parcels. Are you talking about the stuff on the east side of Embarcadero, like Sun and Bun and the sushi restaurant?
Oh, that was just as sort of an example of how the waterfront is somewhat isolated geographically and physically. I wasn't proposing anything specific with respect to developing vacant parcels.
Okay.
I think I might have one that might encapsulate all of that. Just and just on a sidebar, one of the things that I do want to look into more is, again, sorry, Port San Luis. We used to annually have an RFP for licenses, and we've kind of started going down that direction here with the sauna business. So every year we would go out to RFP for licenses, and people such as the sauna could turn in a proposal, and then as a packet of all these different licenses, they would go before the council or the board for consideration, and then they'd be adopted, and it would mean more revenue for it. And I know that Lori has looked at that in the past, and we've never really implemented it. And so that is one thing that we could do, but just kind of giving a more broad approach. It's a bit of a mouthful, but it encapsulates everything that was said, but would be assess fees, licenses, property, and lease opportunities within the tidelands, which that would be good practice anyway, but
I think it was part of your job description, if I recall.
Well, it is under the economic vitality category, so it's right in there. So, but yeah, I'm open to other things, but that would at least address those needs.
I think that's a good way to combine it. I don't know what your feeling is, Member Hanson.
I need it in a sentence.
Yeah,
Still a little.
It could be be worked out a little bit better. I'm sure
think,
you can do your magic, Charisse.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm imagining something along the lines is, better utilizing the entire Embarcadero, not just the master leaseholders, but the entire harbor area for revenue generation.
There you go.
You guys are using the most boring words. We need some excitement. It's like rah rah. Let's have some buzz for these opportunities here.
I mean, as you guys were talking, I just wrote down as a possible goal to create an ad hoc committee for harbor vitality opportunities. That's all.
That works.
Does that work?
Sold. All right, I know who will be on that one.
Was there another, is that all?
Yeah, I think it's just, that one, I think, like I say, as Director Munson had, was a great idea to combine, and I think you summarized very well. All right, you want to do your 2A, 2B thing?
Well, I have it written down, but after knowing what it means for a pilot parking program at Tidelands, I would be super opposed to doing an automobile paid parking program at Tidelands, knowing that the people who park there are either liveaboards or fisher people. I think that this community wants to not necessarily charge more for people who are fisher people. And the liveaboards already pay their liveaboard fees for their services. That area is not frequently used. We should do more events down there, 100%. But when they did the parking study, that area always had, for the majority of it, had space. It's not like tourists park there and then walk all the way down to the Embarcadero. I mean, it is the Embarcadero, but all the way to like where the first restaurant is or the first shop is. It's a distance, and those people are utilizing it because they have boats there and they are already paying us in some way, shape, or form. The trailers make sense because there's maintenance. They use the ramp. So if I could, I don't know if anybody wants to talk about that one, but if we're going to add that, I would like to edit it to just say paid parking at the Rock.
I might have misspoken too. It's not at the Tidelands Park area. It's over by the launch ramp, and if that's still a no-go for you, then that's fine. But I just wanted to clarify, we're not talking about where the Tidelands dock is. We're just talking by the parking lot by the boat ramp.
Well, basically though, those, a dozen parking spaces or so?
No, we're talking about where the boat trailers park. There around the perimeter, there's some automobile parking.
Are you talking that up against the shoreline there?
Yeah, over by there's a restroom and fish cleaning station over in that area, not over by where the Tideland dock, where the mooring and overnight patrons park.
I wasn't talking about Tyler's dock. I was talking about the frontage along the boat launch that fronts the water.
Yes.
Okay, well, there's probably only a dozen, maybe 10, 12, 14 parking spaces there. And most of those are used by the commercial fishermen who use those slips and use those parking spaces to access their boats.
And my understanding was that this was already adopted. We are just following through with what was already agreed upon.
Yeah, I don't, that's news to me, but it appears to others here too, Chris. And I agree with these people. There's only a couple of handfuls of parking spaces in the front there on both sides of the launch ramp, and they're taken up by commercial fishermen. We're renting slips all along the front, the waterfront there to commercial fishermen, and where are they going to park?
And I'm fine removing the boat launch ramp parking if you'd like, but that has already been adopted by City Council and it's already on the fee schedule. It's just that it hasn't been put in place yet. So if we don't want to have that as our goal, that's fine, but that's already been adopted.
Okay, with that, I will make the motion to do economic vitality, the first one, A, and then combine B and E, so, and just state for the next one, pursue grant opportunities for city-owned harbor infrastructure.
Perfect.
And then for the next one, the third one down, just do paid parking at the Rock, paid parking program at the Rock. And then the last one, Member Green, to add, to pursue creating an ad hoc committee for harbor vitality opportunities with pertinent stakeholders, which include a community as well as staff,
All right,
everybody who has a stake in it.
all right. I'm cool with that. I'll second it. All right,
I'll second it.
second, okay. With that, all in favor, aye? Aye. All right, carries 6-0. All right. No housing and homeless stuff, thank goodness, although they hang out there. Community outreach. Looks pretty uncontroversial. I know we have one coming up with the HAB next month in April. Director Munson, was there anything else that you had in mind, or is this just sort of generic, and we'll see how it pans out over the course of the calendar year?
Yeah, these ones were just carries over from the previous
Okay.
goals.
Yeah, I mean, we've done some of this stuff already, so I think it's just carrying it forward for the joint advisory. And then the second bullet in there, I don't know if this is what I kind of made the city manager, or asked the city manager about earlier, or is there any other verbiage on this one that you can shine? Is that pretty much making sure that they kind of gets acknowledged or whatnot?
Well, thank you, Chair. We always, after your hard work, we always want to consider your work and get that to the appropriate individuals. So that's, yeah, I can assure you that
Okay, yeah,
your
thank
work
you.
is always appreciated.
Yeah, I appreciate the response for that. I know it was a kind of an awkward question earlier. Okay, I think those are okay as is. Any other questions on that? I'll get.
The community outreach, did you go over housing?
Oh, housing, we don't have anything. Oh, I'm sorry, did anybody want to add anything to housing?
Sorry. Yes.
Okay.
Well, the homeless, Okay.
We've already started. I'll circle back to housing once we finish the community outreach. Any other comments on the other two that we already have on there? Seems pretty straightforward. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to make one comment. In 2023, there was, I think, 2 ad hoc committees that Harbor Harbor Advisory Board members participated in. And rather than their report coming to Harbor Advisory Board for us to chime in on it, that committee report was brought straight to council and sort of presented as if it had Harbor Advisory Board buy-in. So if we have ad hoc committees that are part of Harbor Advisory Board or any advisory board, they really ought to go back to that particular advisory board to get commentary rather than sort of rushed into council under the guise of having full support by the advisory board.
Oh, thank you, Member Green. Did you have anything else? There was just a comment. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Member Witowski, anything? No? All right. All right. With that, we'll just leave that pretty much as is. If you want to add some of the clarifying words to it, that's perfectly fine. With that, we'll just leave that as is. I guess.
if you want to just talk about homelessness, we can do a motion at the end of those 2 items. since
Just
they're
combine,
smaller. Yeah,
okay.
it's just the other ones were so meaty that it's so hard to make a motion with all these
Perfect.
things.
All right, with that, we'll let you add or speak to the item 3 there.
Okay, so I'm just going to make the comment that homelessness on the Embarcadero is a very serious thing. It's a safety risk. So I do feel that, at least throwing it out there, that funding does still need to go either from our police or from our harbor department when it comes to homelessness and safety. About 10 months or so ago, there was an individual police officer that was dedicated to homeless relations. And it was awesome. It was so nice to meet him and he was a resource for the homeless, not just somebody who wanted to lock them up or push them to another corner. And just a source of resource, an understanding individual. And I don't know where that went. I was told that he was moved to a different position in the city. So I would like to say that I would still like that implemented, a homeless resource officer on city staff that also partakes in harbor-related individuals.
We have, we still have a homeless outreach coordinator on city staff under report to the police chief. So we have, it's a part-time position.
So it still exists, it just hasn't, it started pretty strong, and then when I asked, well, where are they? And they said, oh, they were moved to a different position. So you're saying that that job description is still filled, it's just part-time and haven't.
Yeah, I'm not aware of a change on the homeless and outreach position. And it will continue, and really the homelessness, I appreciate the comments. The homelessness is not going away, it's going to be here. And it's just that the city had taken some actions, and it appears at this point it looks a lot better, because we'll have more teeth to enforce some of the regulations. But it's, yes, like we talk about, it's always going to be here. The city police department also is working with a lot of nonprofit organizations to do outreach programs like a shower, a library, parking lot, and some other placement programs. So it's just ongoing effort. It's not going to go away.
Okay, so I guess.
What I could suggest, what I was thinking that if this board is interested in, I can ask the police chief to give you, to come here, make a presentation or have a discussion with you regarding the homelessness and safety and waterfront.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'd just like to add, I don't know what's going on, but we do have a resurfacing of, well, not a resurfacing, but there is a large number right now of people who just come in the last couple days.
Okay.
They're creating a kind of an encampment over at the base of Centennial Stairway. As far as Tideland funds, a lot of them use the showers that are down by the harbor department as well as in the Tidelands area, and it would just be nice to have a little bit more presence or somebody reaching out to them with resources,
We'll make a
because they're
note on
trying
that.
to find, they were literally seeking into our little alcove, like, trying to check out another spot that they can camp out in. And it's happened. I have a video of, I could show it. So
We'll
yeah, they're,
We'll make a note of
it's a
that.
concern for safety, and now that we have a lot of hotels down there too, so.
Thank you
at
for
night.
letting us know. And I would encourage all of you to attend the community forum where all the departments, directors and chiefs will be there.
And thank you, Member Hanson. Do we want to add anything to 3 other than, I mean, we have a future agenda item or a presentation from,
Yeah, we don't have to.
okay, perfect. Yeah, I mean, we can ask for stuff. I don't think from a goals perspective, we need to add anything to line 3 at this point.
It wouldn't hurt to see an officer on the waterfront. We have the Harbor Patrol, of course. They do a wonderful job. But I think the presence of a police, it's a big enough area that we hopefully could put somebody down there.
I don't disagree with that, but I'm I don't want to sound selfish, but it's from a HAB perspective, is that something we want to work on as a HAB, or is this, the business owners, normal business? If they camp under the Centennial Squares, if they go to Quintana, it's the same issue, the same people need to address it.
So Chris, would you suggest that to be a possible city goal because it would back you as far as staffing and assistance? Is there any kind of comment or staff recommendation, or is it just, hey, receive and file?
As far as a dedicated police officer or a dedicated homeless, community officer?
I would view it from the way you asked it, maybe, is there something specific that you need beyond what's already there for the city that would be addressed just for the harbor?
I mean, I can definitely relay your concerns to Chief Watkins from the police department. I know that has been a comment that I've heard before, so I can just reemphasize that.
Okay, then I think it's not a goal because the things are already in place. It just is something that needs to be told to staff again, reminded. Okay.
And I'll express our support for, if she needs help in that regard.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so I'd like to make a motion then to leave items 3 and 4 as is. Have a second for that?
Seconded.
All right, all in favor? Oh, it's all ayes. That concludes the HAB discussion of this. We do have an opportunity for public comment on the goals as it's gone through. Any public comments in the audience? All right, don't see any. Hank, is there anybody with their hand up?
There are no raised hands in the queue.
All right, thank you, AGP. With that, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. LaFay.
I do want to address a couple things that you discussed. One, the Back Bay dredging. I've been a proponent of that since I was on the Harbor Advisory Board 10 years ago. And you talk about an economic opportunity back there. Let's envision 118 slips that we can charge $20 a linear foot as opposed to $9. Half those boats back there don't move. They don't leave that harbor there. And so I myself, Mayor Wickstrom, met with the state parks, and we are working out an agreement to try to dredge that Back Bay. According to my colleague over here, the Coastal Commission has changed their rules a little bit about disposals of that type of sediments. And so we're exploring that opportunity, and maybe we could get this done. We also have chatted with Paul Gillian, and he's all for this thing too. But my envision, to be very honest with you, is having the city take that over and really create a revenue source back there and make that a very viable Back Bay Marina. Second of all, I have been working on the Coleman Park bathroom. I do have an update on that. I can't give it to you right now, but it will happen, and that's all I'm telling you. Maybe nothing else, but there will be a bathroom there.
Thank you, Mr. LaFay. I appreciate that update. With that, we'll go ahead and close item B2, and that will move on to item B3. This should be pretty easy. Approve the excused absence for Member Witowski from the February meeting. I did see the attachment on the email. I don't know if there's any discussion that we need to do, Lori.
I'd like to discuss this for about an hour. No, I move to approve his excused absence.
I second that. All in favor? Aye. It was pretty classic. You almost got action items, just so you know. We saved you. With that, we'll public comment for item B3. Anybody in the audience? No? AGP, anybody on that with their hand raised for item B3?
Hi, Chair Byers. There are no raised hands in the queue.
I'm assuming the answer is no. AGP?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, with that, we'll go ahead and close item B3. Declaration of future agenda items.
I have one.
Go ahead.
Where did it go?
Chief Watkins?
Oh, no. I suggest that we make an agenda item out of creating an ad hoc committee for harbor vitality opportunities.
Oh, okay. But I think that's doable. So we add that to the list. I guess we just, for future agenda items, we just need what, a majority?
Yep. All
Anybody
those
else?
in favor?
Oh, anybody else? Want to put that on there? All right, we'll put that on for the next agenda, next.
Goals are set.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I mean, we can just get the ad hoc and, yeah, I mean, the topic I don't think goes away. All right. Any other new ones on there? Yes, sir?
I was contacted by Lori French the other day, and I was hoping she was going to do a presentation tonight, but perhaps the next meeting. But I'd like to get discussion on the requirements for commercial slips in Morro Bay, on the requirements for those slips. And what I'm referring to actually is the last couple of years, we've had no salmon fishing. Didn't exist. It was completely closed. Also, the crab seasons have been non-existent to abbreviated. So I think we'd like to approach the board to at least temporarily reduce the requirements to qualify for the slips. So if everybody who has a slip has to qualify every year, and so I'll wait. If it's all right, I'd like to see it agendized, and Lori will give the presentation. If that's...
Sure.
And we've talked about this a bit within the Harbor Department. We are, I think that this would be a good thing to put on the agenda. We have talked about doing a blanket waiver. Right now, they can apply for a waiver, and they're allowed
Yeah,
to do.
there's some rules, and they're not fishing, and it's
Yeah,
not their fault. Yep.
Right, but I mean, because certain fisheries are closed right now, there's a lot of people who are having
Yeah, I
this
would,
issue.
yeah,
So.
it'd be nice to see that, and then if we have to waive certain things, it'd be nice to talk about that on the open. So, yeah, I think that would be a really good item for next meeting or in the near future.
Okay, yeah, we've got it down.
Yeah, we'll have fun planning the next meeting, Chris. So we have a handful of other future agenda items. Is there anyone here that anybody wants to mention or to strike? I think the Coleman Park update and the parking ad hoc, I think we can strike because we've already sort of talked about that in the goals. I don't know if we want to take any of these off at the moment. Just leave them on there for now. Just talking about this one and this one for right now.
Why don't we do that once the goals?
Okay, fair enough.
in?
Yeah. And then the waterfront master plan, I think that one's kind of already underway. Already not.
Oh, yeah, can we get a confirmation of our representative is confirmed? Oh, no, yeah, okay.
Yay. Okay.
Tuesday will be the formal confirmation. So if there are people, look for the agenda item that came out, and then if you have any public
It's on the
comments
next
that you'd like to
council
make,
meeting.
then yeah,
City council. Okay.
it should be released by now, so it should be posted. And just a reminder, tentatively, we are looking at next HAB meeting for the presentation on the revetment, and so we should just, are all of the board members okay with that? What we would do is have the Public Works Advisory Board would come at the beginning of that meeting at 5:30, and then we would listen to the presentation, and then we would come into open session after that. The presentation shouldn't take longer than an hour, I would presume.
Okay, yeah, well, I'll work with you and Lori to how that fits into the flow of the meeting, but yeah, that's fantastic. I'm excited to see that. I know the Director Quallig sent the report out to the HAB I don't know, a few weeks back now.
Okay, perfect.
All right, cool. Anything else on the future agenda items? With that, the meeting's adjourned.